Imagine inheriting a piece of your family's heart, only to watch your neighbors turn it into a dumping ground for their greed. That's what happened to me, David Harper, when my uncle's storage facility became the battleground for a corrupt HOA's schemes in Sycamore Heights. This isn't just a story of stolen property, it's about fighting for justice, protecting family legacy, and rediscovering the soul of a community. By the end, we didn't just take back what was ours, we planted seeds for a future that no HOA could uproot. Grab a coffee, settle in, and let me tell you how it all began. The letter from Uncle Frank's lawyer hit like a thunderbolt. My wife, Melissa, nearly spilled her coffee when I read it aloud. Frank Harper, the gruff old man who'd rather scowl than smile, had left me his storage facility on Maple Road, just beyond the manicured lawns of Sycamore Heights. A warehouse? Melissa said, wiping her chin. That blue-roofed place by the grocery store? I nodded, still dazed, flipping through photos in the will. The facility wasn't grand, 5,000 square feet, 20 units, a rusty office, and a chain-link fence, but it was solid, a relic of Frank's stubborn pride. We could sell it, I mused. Fix the kitchen, maybe take a trip. Melissa's eyes lit up, but then she tilted her head. Or keep it. Storage is always in demand, steady income, David. Before we could weigh our options. The doorbell chimed. Diane Reynolds, Sycamore Heights' HOA president, stood on our porch, her blonde bob as stiff as her smile. Diane had a knack for sniffing out news before it spread, her eyes gleaming with calculated charm. David, I heard about your inheritance, she cooed, stepping inside without waiting for an invite. Over tea at our kitchen table, she spun her pitch. The HOA's in a bind, she said, clutching her mug like a prop. Our clubhouse shed's rotting, and we've got nowhere for holiday decorations or lawnmowers. Construction costs are through the roof. She leaned closer, her voice syrupy. Could you spare a corner of your facility? Just for the community, of course. Melissa shot me a skeptical glance, but I shrugged. It seemed harmless. 1 unit, I said cautiously. 3 months, until I figure out my plans. Diane's smile widened, but her eyes didn't follow suit. Perfect, she purred, promising a formal agreement. That night, Melissa raised an eyebrow. Generous move, but Diane's not the just 1 unit type. I laughed it off. It's temporary. What's the worst that could happen? 3 days later, I drove to Maple Road to clear Frank's old tools, expecting a quiet morning. Instead, I slammed on the brakes, my heart racing. The facility was a circus, pickup trucks, SUVs, and neighbors unloading everything from couches to a pontoon boat. Diane stood in the chaos, clipboard in hand, directing traffic like a general. Diane, I shouted, pushing through the crowd. What the hell is this? Her beam didn't falter. David, isn't it wonderful? I shared our arrangement at the board meeting and everyone's thrilled. Our arrangement was 1 unit for HOA gear, I snapped, watching Mr. Gunderson roll a Harley into Unit 6. Diane waved a hand. Well, yes, but the community's needs are bigger than that. The Jensens are moving, the Wilsons are renovating, your facility's a godsend. My jaw dropped as I spotted Tom, Diane's husband, hauling a pinball machine. You can't do this, I protested. Diane pressed a document into my hand, her voice dropping. The board amended the bylaws. David, your facility's now a community resource, equal access for all members. The paper, labeled Bylaw 47.3, claimed my property fell within HOA bounds. This isn't legal, I stammered. Diane's smile tightened. Think about how it looks if you back out now, not very neighborly. As I stood there, helpless, Karen Mitchell, our street's decoration czar, glared at me, her arms crossed. I've already cleared my garage for my gym. You're not backing out, are you? The crowd's eyes bore into me, neighbors I'd known for years now expecting free storage. I drove home. The bylaw crumpled in my fist and opened my email to a gut punch, the HOA newsletter, sent to all 245 households. Declared, local hero David Harper donates storage facility to community. My name blazed in the headline, painting me as a willing benefactor. Melissa's face paled as she read it. This isn't a misunderstanding, she whispered. It's a takeover. The Sycamore Heights HOA had turned my uncle's storage facility into their personal playground, plastering my name on a newsletter that branded me a generous fool. Diane Reynolds' smile and her forged bylaw had hijacked my inheritance. But I wasn't about to let her rewrite my family's story. As Melissa and I stared at that email, the weight of betrayal settled in. This wasn't just about a few storage units, it was about standing up for what was ours, for Uncle Frank's legacy, and for every neighbor too scared to fight. I didn't know it then, but a dusty box in Frank's office would crack open the HOA's lies, pulling me into a battle that would test my resolve. Morning light barely cut through the fog as I pulled up to the Maple Road facility, my stomach churning from the newsletter's sting. The chaos had worsened. Neighbors hauled in snowmobiles, antique lamps, even a hot tub, as if my property was a free landfill. Diane's bylaw 47.3 claimed my land was theirs. But something felt off. I headed to Frank's old office, a cramped room smelling of oil and thyme, to dig through his files. If anyone knew the truth about this place, it was Frank, a man who'd rather wrestle a bear than trust an HOA. Among stacks of yellowed receipts, I found a locked metal box, its surface etched with F. H. 1985. My heart skipped as I pried it open with a screwdriver. Inside were property deeds, county letters, and a handwritten note in Frank's scrawl. Sycamore Heights tried to claim my land in '85, fought 'em and won, boundaries 15 feet outside their line, never trust Reynolds. Reynolds, Diane's family. A chill ran through me. This wasn't just a land grab, it was a vendetta, decades old, and I was caught in its crosshairs. I called Melissa, my voice tight. Frank knew they'd come for the facility. He left proof. She was quiet, then said, "David, check the locks. If they're using it, they're not locking it right." Sure enough, the main gate's padlock was new, shiny, and not mine. I stormed to the office, where Karen Mitchell was sorting bins, her usual sneer in place. "Karen, who changed my locks?" I demanded. She didn't look up. "HOA Security Committee. Talk to Diane." My temper flared. "This is my property, not your community closet." She smirked. "The newsletter says otherwise." "You calling Diane a liar?" Before I could snap back, my phone buzzed. My boss, furious I'd missed a meeting, I left, promising to confront Diane later. By dusk, the facility was a zoo again. A hand-painted sign reading Sycamore Heights Storage nailed over Frank's old logo. Mrs. Patel, struggling with a box of bowling trophies, thanked me for my generosity. My gut twisted. "Mrs. Patel, I didn't donate this place," I said gently. Her eyes widened. "But Diane showed us a paper, your signature, HOA letterhead, saying you gave it for community use." My blood ran cold. "My signature?" She nodded, uneasy. "It said you honored Frank's legacy." Fury drove me to Diane's pristine colonial, its flower bed screaming control. Tom, her husband, was trimming hedges that didn't need it. "Where's Diane?" I demanded. "Board meeting," he said, his smile gone. "And forging signatures is a serious claim. David, watch yourself." His tone wasn't neighborly, it was a warning. I sped to the clubhouse, catching Diane locking up. "You faked my signature," I said, voice low. Her smile didn't waver. "A misunderstanding, David. You agreed to community access. The paperwork's just formalities." She sidestepped me, adding, "Submit your concerns for the next meeting. I'm late for dinner." As she drove off, Raj Patel, a quiet neighbor, lingered nearby. "You're not the first," he whispered. "The Smiths lost their RV pad last year. Same playbook. Diane buries you in fines if you fight." My chest tightened. How did they get away with it? Raj's eyes darted. Money, connections, and fear. But Frank's box. Check the county records. They're lying about the boundary. I gripped the metal box tighter. Frank's note burning in my mind. Diane thought she'd won. But she'd woken a fight Frank had started decades ago. Diane Reynolds had spun a web of lies, forging my signature and claiming my uncle's storage facility as Sycamore Heights' own. Her newsletter branded me a hero. But her grip on my inheritance was a betrayal of everything Uncle Frank stood for: honesty, hard work, and a fierce love for what was his. Raj Patel's words echoed in my head. Check the county records. With Frank's metal box and its damning note in hand, I was ready to fight back. But Diane's game was dirtier than I'd imagined. And a chilling discovery at the county office would reveal just how far her family's claws reached. As I prepared to confront the HOA, a neighbor's desperate plea would force me to question who I could trust. The county clerk's office smelled of dust and bureaucracy, its fluorescent lights buzzing as I spread Frank's deeds across the counter. Gloria, a gray-haired clerk with a no-nonsense stare, raised an eyebrow. "Someone stole your warehouse?" she asked, peering over her glasses. "Not stole, hijacked," I said, voice tight. "The HOA claims it's theirs, says it's in their boundary. Frank's note says otherwise." I slid the 1985 deed forward, my finger tracing the boundary line. Gloria tapped her keyboard, pulling up digital maps. Her eyes narrowed. "Well, I'll be. Your facility's 15 feet outside Sycamore Heights line. They've got no claim. None." My pulse raced. "Then why's Diane Reynolds saying it's hers?" Gloria printed the map, then leaned closer, her voice low. "The Reynolds family's been pulling stunts like this since the 80s. Frank fought them over this same parcel. 1, 2. But Diane's dad was HOA president back then. They don't forget a loss." A twist hit me like a punch. This wasn't just greed. It was revenge, a decades-old grudge against Frank, now aimed at me. Gloria handed me a file. "Here's more. The county fined the HOA 3 times last year, $110,000 due next week unless they find proper storage. Your facility was their cheap fix." I drove to my friend Miguel, a real estate lawyer with a knack for cutting through red tape. He scanned Frank's note and the county map, his jaw tightening. "This is fraud, David. Forged signatures. Fake bylaws. Diane's playing with fire." He drafted a cease and desist letter, his pen slashing the page. "Deliver this at their next meeting. If they don't back off, we'll hit them with a restraining order." I nodded, but a knot formed in my gut. Diane's warning through Tom, "Watch yourself," felt heavier now. Back home, Melissa was waiting, her face pale. "David, check the mailbox." I opened it to find a stack of HOA violation notices, improper garbage cans, unapproved garden stones, excessive bird feeders. Even our daughter's ceramic turtle labeled a disruptive ornament. Fines totaled $300, all dated today. "This is no coincidence," Melissa whispered. "They're punishing us." My anger boiled, but a new blow landed at dusk. Our front yard's oak tree, where our kids once swung, was marked with orange spray paint. "Hazardous HOA removal." A notice cited root damage, signed by Diane, dated yesterday. "That tree's healthy," I growled. "This is war." I called Raj, who met me at the facility. Now a shrine to HOA greed with labeled units and a new community storage sign. "They've done this before," he said, eyes scanning the lot. "The Smiths got buried in fines after questioning a parking rule. They moved away." His voice dropped. "But there's someone you need to meet." He led me to a quiet street, to Mrs. Schmidt, a silver-haired widow with a spine of steel. Her rose garden, a neighborhood legend, was freshly vandalized, petals scattered, stems snapped. "Diane's work," she said, voice steady. "I asked about missing playground funds last year. This is my reward." Mrs. Schmidt pulled out a faded photo, Frank and her late husband, shaking hands outside the facility in 1985. "Frank warned us about the Reynolds," she said. "They tried to annex his land for a clubhouse. He proved the boundary and stopped them, but Diane's got her father's playbook and more connections." My heart sank. "Connections?" She nodded. "Tom's brother-in-law runs a construction firm. They've been skimming HOA funds for years." A spark of hope flared. "If we can prove it..." Mrs. Schmidt's eyes gleamed. "We will, but Diane fights dirty. Watch your back." As I drove home, the oak tree's orange mark burned in my mind, a symbol of Diane's reach, Frank's note, the county map. And Mrs. Schmidt's warning were my weapons. But the HOA's next move would hit closer to home than I could imagine. The Sycamore Heights HOA had drawn a battle line, marking my family's oak tree for destruction and burying me in violation notices to silence my fight for Uncle Frank's storage facility. Diane Reynolds' forged signature and fake bylaws had turned my inheritance into a community free-for-all. But Frank's note and the county's map proved her lies. Mrs. Schmidt's warning about Diane's dirty tactics lingered. But I wasn't alone anymore. With Raj and the Schmidts by my side, I was ready to push back. Yet, as the chainsaws roared, A devastating loss and a neighbor's hidden secret would ignite a fire in Sycamore Heights that no HOA could extinguish. At 6:17 a.m., and the scream of chainsaws tore me from sleep, I bolted to the window, heart pounding, to see 3 workers in yellow vests hacking at our oak tree, the one where my daughter, Emily, hung her tire swing, where we'd carved our initials. "Stop!" I yelled, sprinting outside in pajamas. The lead worker, clipboard in hand, barely glanced up. "HOA order. Sir, tree's dangerous, root damage to sidewalks." I snatched the paper, my hands shaking. It was signed by Diane, dated yesterday, citing a safety inspection I'd never seen. "This tree's fine," I roared. "I had it checked last spring," he shrugged. "Take it up with your HOA." By the time Melissa joined me, branches littered the lawn, the oak's canopy reduced to a stump. She touched the bark, tears welling. 30 years, David. Our kids grew up under this tree. I drove to Diane's Colonial, fury blinding me. She answered in tennis whites, racket in hand, her smile a mask. "Your tree was a hazard," she said, feigning concern. "We can't risk injuries." I stepped closer. "This is revenge for exposing your storage scam." Her eyes flashed. "Careful, David. Accusations like that could be defamation. Oh, and your fence is 6 inches too tall. Expect a notice." She brushed past, leaving me seething. Back home, violation notices piled up. Fence height, $150. Mailbox design, $100. Bird feeders, $75. Garden stones, $50. Raj got 6 fines in 3 days for questioning Diane at the mailboxes. The Schmitz award-winning rose garden faced complaints, their petals trampled. "They're breaking us," Melissa said, staring at the citations. "Not if we fight together," I replied. I invited Raj and the Schmitz for dinner, determined to plan our next move. Harold Schmidt, a retired contract lawyer, brought a folder thick with HOA records. "This isn't just about your facility," he said, spreading papers across our table. "They've been stealing for years." Harold pointed to a $85,000 playground fund, unspent, while the slides rusted. "Here's a $40,000 deposit to try our construction, owned by Tom's brother-in-law," he said. Melissa gasped. "They're robbing us blind." Mrs. Schmidt nodded. "The Hendersons asked for an audit in '99. Their yard drowned in fines until they fled." A twist hit me. Buried in Harold's folder was a 1985 HOA memo, signed by Diane's father, proposing to seize Frank's land for profit. "They failed then," I said. "But Diane's finishing his work." Raj leaned in, voice low. "My cousin's a reporter at the Pine Valley Gazette. We could go public, but it's risky." My heart raced. "Risky how?" Mrs. Schmidt's eyes hardened. "Diane's got Tom's city planning connections. They'll hit back, hard." As we debated, Emily, now 16, slipped into the room, holding a small wooden box. "Dad, I found this in the attic. It's Grandpa Frank's." Inside was a key and a note. "Emergency safe, facility office, for the fight." My throat tightened. Frank had known this day would come. As we cleared the table, a neighbor's headlights flashed outside. Jeff, from across the street, knocked urgently. "David, they're planning something big at tomorrow's board meeting. I overheard Tom. They're after your house next." The room fell silent, the weight of Diane's reach sinking in. Frank's key felt heavy in my hand, a lifeline to a fight I couldn't lose. Diane Reynolds and her HOA cronies had drawn blood, reducing my family's oak tree to a stump and drowning us in violation notices to crush my fight for Uncle Frank's storage facility. Their forged bylaws and fake signatures had turned my inheritance into a neighborhood dumping ground. But Frank's note, the county's map, and a growing alliance with Raj, the Schmitz. And now my daughter Emily's discovery of a mysterious key gave me hope. Jeff's warning that the HOA was targeting our house next hung heavy, but Frank's words, "for the fight," burned brighter. As I unlocked his safe, a shocking secret would unravel Diane's empire, and a bold plan would set a trap that could either save Sycamore Heights or cost us everything. I clutched Frank's key, its weight a promise, and drove to the Maple Road facility under a gray dawn. The community storage sign mocked me. Neighbors' junk spilling from units meant for Frank's legacy. In the office, I found the safe hidden behind a warped panel, its lock rusted but intact. My hands trembled as I turned the key. Inside was a ledger, Frank's meticulous records from 1985, listing payments to a Reynolds Consulting for land surveys that never happened. Tucked beneath was a grainy photo. Diane's father, shaking hands with a county official, a bribe caught in black and white. My breath caught. "Frank, you old fox," I whispered. This was dynamite, proof the Reynolds family had been fleecing Sycamore Heights for decades. I called Miguel, my lawyer, who whistled through the phone. "This is criminal. David, embezzlement, fraud. Diane's carrying her dad's torch," he urged caution. "They'll bury you in legal fees unless you catch them red-handed." Back home, Melissa and Emily pored over the ledger, their faces grim. "They're stealing from everyone," Emily said, her voice fierce. "We have to stop them." But the HOA's retaliation was relentless. New notices arrived. Unapproved porch light, $80. Improper house numbers, $100. Raj's mailbox was vandalized, and the Schmidt's garden faced a code violation fine of $200. "They're circling," Melissa said, her voice tight. "What's next? Our house?" That night, Jeff slipped into our backyard, his face pale. "I found something," he whispered, handing me a crumpled HOA memo. It proposed rezoning our street as common property to seize non-compliant homes, starting with ours. "Tom's pushing it through city planning," Jeff said. "They're using your defiance as an excuse." My blood boiled, but Harold Schmidt, over coffee the next morning, saw an opportunity. "We need evidence of their abuse," he said, eyes gleaming. "Pretend to surrender. Offer the facility as a community gift. Then watch them slip." Raj nodded. "My cousin at the Gazette can amplify it, but we need a smoking gun." The plan was risky, but Frank's ledger gave me courage. I emailed the HOA, feigning defeat. "I'll allow full community access to the facility." Melissa thought I'd lost it, but I showed her a tiny camera Raj's friend had hidden in the office. "It's a trap," I said. "They'll hide their dirt where they think it's safe." Sure enough, Karen Mitchell arrived the next day, rearranging units with a smug grin. "Smart move, David," she said. "Diane knew you'd see reason." I forced a smile, noticing her glance at a locked cabinet, likely where Diane stashed her secrets. As I left, Mrs. Schmidt pulled me aside, her voice low. "Diane's desperate. The county's sniffing around missing playground funds. $85,000 gone. She needs your facility to dodge a fine." My heart raced. The ledger, the photo, and now this. But a twist stopped me cold. Emily, eavesdropping, found a second note in Frank's box, scribbled in haste. "If they come for the land, check the oak's roots." My stomach dropped. The tree was gone, but its roots remained. What had Frank buried there? And could it turn the tide before Diane's rezoning plan took our home? The Sycamore Heights HOA had torn down my family's oak tree and aimed their greedy claws at our home, all to protect their lies about Uncle Frank's storage facility. Diane Reynolds's forged signatures and decades-old vendetta had turned my inheritance into a battlefield. But Frank's ledger, a damning photo, and a cryptic note about the oak's roots armed me with hope. With Raj, the Schmidts, and my daughter Emily by my side. Our trap, hidden cameras in the facility, was set to catch Diane's corruption. But as I dug beneath the stump, a heart-stopping discovery would shift the war, and a midnight betrayal would push our community to the edge of revolt. Under a moonless sky, I knelt in our front yard, shovel biting into the earth where the oak once stood. Melissa held a flashlight, her breath shaky. "What if Frank hid nothing?" she whispered. Emily, clutching his note, urged me on. Grandpa Frank always had a plan. Dirt piled high until my shovel hit metal, a rusted box, etched with FH. My heart raced as I pried it open. Inside was a cassette tape labeled Reynolds Deal, 1985, and a letter from Frank. "If they come again, this is their end. Play it for the county." I clutched the tape. A ticking bomb that could bury Diane's dynasty. At dawn, I met Raj at the facility, where our cameras had caught Diane and Tom sneaking in at 11:43 p.m., stashing boxes marked HOA records. "They're hiding evidence," Raj said, eyes gleaming. "The county's investigating the $85,000 playground fund. Diane's panicking." I showed him the tape. This could be bigger than we thought. We called Harold Schmidt, who arrived with a dusty tape player. The recording crackled. Diane's father, bribing a county official to redraw Sycamore Heights boundaries for profit. "That's why they wanted Frank's land," Harold said, "and why Diane needs it now, to cover the same scam." Our plan crystallized, expose them at an emergency community meeting. Raj's cousin at the Pine Valley Gazette agreed to attend, ready to splash the scandal across the front page. I sent another email to the HOA, doubling down on my surrender. "The facility is yours, free for all residents." Karen Mitchell, smug as ever, rearranged units, unaware of our cameras. "Diane's thrilled," she said, eyeing me. "You're finally a team player." I nodded, hiding my grin, but a chill hit when she added, "The board's voting on your street's rezoning tonight. Better not miss it." That evening, our mailbox overflowed with new violations. Unapproved shutters, $120. Excessive lawn ornaments, $90. The Schmidts got a $300 fine for unauthorized fencing. Their gate defaced with red paint. Raj's car tires were slashed. A message carved in the dust. "Back off." "They're scared," Mrs. Schmidt said, her voice steel. "That tape's their nightmare." But a twist gutted me. Jeff, our ally, knocked at midnight, face ashen. "I found this in Diane's trash," he said, handing me a draft HOA letter. It accused me of defrauding the community by misrepresenting the facility's ownership, demanding $50,000 in reparations or foreclosure on our home. Melissa's eyes blazed. "They're framing you." Emily, clutching the tape, said, "Play it at the meeting. Dad, end this." I nodded, but fear gnawed at me. Diane's connections, Tom's city planning ties, her father's old allies were closing in. As I prepared for the meeting, a neighbor's whisper reached me. "Diane's got a county insider on speed dial." The tape was our ace. But one wrong move could cost us everything. Frank's voice echoed in my mind. "This is their end." I just hoped it wouldn't be ours. Diane Reynolds had turned Sycamore Heights into her personal fiefdom, stealing my uncle's storage facility, destroying our family's oak tree, and now threatening to seize our home with a vicious slander accusing me of fraud. But Uncle Frank's legacy fought back, a cassette tape proving her family's bribes, a ledger exposing their theft, and hidden cameras catching Diane and Tom burying their secrets, with Raj, the Schmidts, Emily, and Jeff as allies. Our trap was set for an emergency community meeting, as I clutched Frank's tape, ready to expose the HOA's rot. A traitor's betrayal and a last-second twist would ignite a rebellion that could either save our neighborhood or burn it to the ground. The community center buzzed with tension, every seat filled by neighbors curious about our cryptic flyer. "Your HOA fees are rising. Find out why." Diane stood at the podium, her smile brittle, unaware that Raj's cousin, a Gazette reporter, sat in the back, pen poised. I'd emailed the HOA, feigning surrender, offering my facility as a community gift. But our cameras had caught Diane and Tom hiding incriminating records. Tonight, we'd unveil the truth. As Diane opened the meeting, praising my generosity, I stood, heart pounding. "I'd like to clarify what I've donated," I said, voice steady. Diane's gavel froze. "We're discussing fee increases. David, sit down." Harold Schmidt rose, his lawyer's voice cutting through. "The community deserves to hear this, especially before voting on a 15% hike." Murmurs rippled. Neighbors leaned forward. "I didn't donate my facility," I declared, holding up Frank's ledger. "I'm donating the truth about where your money's gone for decades." Raj wheeled in a projector, and Mrs. Schmidt passed out folders, copies of the ledger, showing $85,000 in missing playground funds, $40,000 to Tom's brother-in-law's firm, and fake consulting fees to Reynolds' relatives. Tom leaped up, face red. "This is slander. You've got no proof." I nodded to Raj, who played the camera footage. Gasps filled the room as Diane and Tom appeared on screen, stashing boxes at midnight, whispering, "If the county finds these invoices, we're done." Karen Mitchell's jaw dropped, her loyalty shaken. But the real blow came next. I held up Frank's cassette. "This is from 1985, I said, when Diane's father bribed a county official to steal land, including Frank's. The tape crackled, his voice clear. "Redraw the boundary and you'll get $20,000. The room erupted, neighbors shouting for resignations. Diane banged her gavel, voice shrill. "This is a setup. David's defrauding you all." She waved a letter, the slander accusing me of misrepresenting the facility, demanding $50,000. A twist hit like ice. Karen stood, trembling. "I helped Diane draft that letter," she confessed, tears streaming. "She said it was to protect the community. I was wrong." The crowd roared, some defending Diane, others demanding justice. Mrs. Schmidt, moving like the general, blocked the exit. "The county prosecutor's waiting outside," she said. "They'd like a word about those missing funds." As police entered, Diane's mask shattered, her face ashen, but a final twist gutted me. Jeff, our ally, slipped me a note as chaos reigned. "Diane paid a county clerk to bury Frank's tape. She knows it's out." My stomach dropped. Our ace was at risk, and Diane's connections ran deeper than I'd feared. Neighbors swarmed me, some clapping my shoulder, others glaring, loyal to Diane. Emily squeezed my hand. "You did it, Dad." But I wasn't so sure. The tape had sparked a fire, but Diane's last play could snuff it out. As we left, Raj whispered, "The Gazette goes to print tomorrow. This isn't over." The Sycamore Heights HOA lay in ruins, its corruption exposed by Uncle Frank's cassette, a damning ledger, and our hidden cameras catching Diane and Tom hiding their crimes. Karen's tearful confession and the county prosecutor's arrival had shaken our community, but Jeff's warning that Diane had bribed a county clerk to bury Frank's tape cast a shadow over our victory, with Raj's cousin ready to splash the scandal across the Pine Valley Gazette. I thought we'd won, but as the dust settled, a final act of betrayal and an unexpected gift would redefine Sycamore Heights, proving that courage, not greed, could rebuild a broken neighborhood. The Gazette hit doorsteps at dawn, its headlines screaming, "Sycamore Heights HOA embezzled millions." Neighbors gathered at mailboxes, whispering about Diane and Tom's arrest as police hauled boxes from their colonial. The article detailed $85,000 in missing playground funds, fake contracts to Tom's relatives, and Frank's 1985 tape proving decades of bribes. My phone buzzed with calls, some thanking me, others furious for tearing the community apart. Melissa squeezed my hand. "You did right, David." But Emily, scanning the paper, frowned. "What about the clerk Diane paid? The tape's still at risk." I drove to the county office, Frank's tape locked in a safe at home. Gloria, the clerk, met me with a grim nod. "The clerk Diane bribed? Fired this morning. Your tape's safe. And the prosecutor's building a case." Relief washed over me. But a twist hit hard. Gloria handed me a 1985 county log, found in storage. It listed a Reynolds Trust funneling HOA fees to offshore accounts, Diane's father's scheme, inherited by her. "Frank tried to expose this," Gloria said. "He'd be proud." My throat tightened. Frank's fight was mine now, and it wasn't over. Back home. The HOA's retaliation lingered. Violation notices still arrived, though weaker, $50 for unapproved planters. Raj's tires were replaced, but his mailbox bore a new scratch. Traitor. The Schmidt's garden was spared, but their gate needed repainting. At a quiet coffee shop, Mrs. Schmidt proposed a new meeting, not at the tainted community center, but at the public library. "We rebuild," she said, eyes fierce. "No more Dianes." Raj agreed. "My cousin's running a follow-up story. Let's show the county we're better than this." The library meeting drew a crowd, neighbors wary but hopeful. Harold stood, his lawyer's voice steady. "We can wallow in anger or build a new Sycamore Heights. I nominate Mrs. Schmidt as interim president." To my surprise, Karen, pale and hesitant, seconded. "She's honest," she said, voice breaking. I wasn't. The room hushed, then applauded as Mrs. Schmidt accepted. "First," she declared, "every HOA penny will be online, transparent. Second, no more fines for bird feeders or turtles. Rules protect, not punish. Cheers erupted, louder when she turned to me. David, your facility, what's next? I stood, Frank's ledger in mind. I'm not taking it back, I said. I'm making it the Pine Hollow Community Center, a nonprofit for everyone, not the HOAs. Gasps turned to claps. Why? A neighbor called. Because Diane can't steal our spirit, I replied. This is for us, for Frank. As we left, Karen approached, head low. I'm moving, she whispered. Too many mistakes here. I nodded. No anger left. Start fresh. Karen, you helped tonight. The next morning, an unmarked envelope arrived. Inside was a $120,000 cashier's check and a note. For the oak. Sorry, Tom. My heart skipped. Melissa smiled. Plant something new. That weekend, neighbors gathered, shovels in hand, to plant 25 oak saplings across Sycamore Heights, replacing every tree Diane's fines had killed. Emily led the kids, watering cans too big for their hands. Mrs. Schmidt, clipboard in hand, grinned from a lawn chair. As dirt stained my fingers, I felt it, Frank's legacy, not in a facility, but in a community reborn. Sycamore Heights had faced its reckoning. With Diane and Tom's empire of lies crumbled by Uncle Frank's cassette, a ledger of theft, and our community's courage. The Pine Valley Gazette had exposed their decades-long fraud. From stolen playground funds to bribes dating back to 1985, Mrs. Schmidt's leadership and Karen's redemption sparked hope, and my decision to transform Frank's storage facility into the Pine Hollow Community Center, sealed by 25 new oak saplings, promised a fresh start. But as we prepared to open the center, a final twist from Frank's legacy and a neighbor's quiet act of atonement would teach us that true victory lies not in vengeance, but in rebuilding what matters most: family, community, and trust. The morning of the Pine Hollow Community Center's opening dawned bright, the air crisp with autumn's promise. Neighbors swarmed the transformed facility, once a chaotic dumping ground, now a beacon of renewal. Melissa's design shone, a cozy library corner with donated books, a meeting hall with salvaged oak tables, and a coffee nook where laughter replaced the clatter of HOA greed. Emily led kids in painting a mural, a vibrant oak tree, its roots spelling Sycamore Heights. Raj's accounting firm supplied shelves. The Schmidts brought armchairs, and even Karen, before leaving for her sister's town, returned with paint cans, her brush strokes a silent apology. As I welcomed the crowd, Mrs. Schmidt, clipboard in hand, took the stage. This center isn't just walls, she said, voice steady. It's proof we can heal. No more secrets, no more fines for turtles. Cheers erupted, louder when she unveiled a plaque. Frank Harper Community Center, for the fight. My throat tightened. Frank's legacy, etched in bronze. But a twist waited in the wings. Emily, helping clean the office, found a hidden drawer in Frank's desk, missed in my earlier searches. Inside was a letter, sealed in 1985, addressed to me. David, it read, if you're reading this, you've faced the Reynolds. I built this place for family, not greed. Give it to those who'll fight for each other. You're my kin. Make me proud. Tears stung as I shared the letter with Melissa. He knew, she whispered. He always knew. The crowd hushed as I read it aloud, neighbors nodding, some wiping eyes. But a quieter moment came at dusk, when Jeff approached, his face heavy. I need to confess, he said, voice low. I almost sold you out. Diane offered me $5,000 to steal Frank's tape. I said no, but I didn't tell you sooner. My heart sank, but I saw his shame. You stayed, Jeff. That's enough. He handed me a small oak carving, a sapling, etched with, sorry. For the center, he said, walking away. That evening, over 100 neighbors filled the center, kids playing on cleared grounds, adults sharing stories of Diane's reign and dreams for tomorrow. Raj, grinning, showed me the Gazette's follow-up. Sycamore Heights rises from scandal. Mrs. Schmidt announced open HOA records online, earning roars of approval. Emily, now a spark in the community, proposed a kids' gardening club to tend the saplings. As I watched, dirt still under my nails from planting, Melissa leaned close. Frank's fight became ours, she said, and we won something bigger. Standing under the mural's oak, I realized the truth. Diane had stolen money, but we'd reclaimed trust. Frank's facility wasn't just a building, it was a lesson. One voice, joined by others, could uproot greed and plant hope. Sycamore Heights wasn't perfect, but it was alive, its roots deeper than any HOA could sever. And as I locked the center that night, Frank's letter in my pocket, I knew we'd carry his fight forward, together.